Hey guys, we are back with another episode of our Farmhouse Bill. Today we are talking all things water, plumbing, you name it. And we're going to kind of tell you guys why we made the decisions we made. So, welcome back. Hey there, my name is Yami. I am your Latina next door. Welcome back to Mi Casa. My husband Nelson here is also known as the Latino engineer, and we're going to be talking all things water and plumbing. And why we made those decisions, because there was a lot of decisions and a lot of things that we kind of went through and learned through this process. And we are very particular about why we did what we did. First of all, you want to talk about the well, I guess. The very first time we had like our last house was the very first time we had well water. And why did we like that? And then why did we choose that for here?
Well, I guess the main objective or the main reason we really loved it was we didn't have to pay the man. Yeah, well, water, you're not having to pay a, utility.
And that works with 4 kids, us, a couple of dogs, a garden in the future. That's going to be a lot of water that we're going to use.
Right. But no, one of the main reasons is due to our house being so far away from the road. I think from our house to the front side is 300 yards, or something like that. It's pretty far. The actual utility water runs like on the other side of the property. So to get pipe ran over to our house would have been like a astronomical, expense for us because, the utility only goes up at the edge of your property. So anything from there to your home is your responsibility. And it's like, if I'm paying that much, I might as well just put in the well and then like I don't have a utility bill at the end of the month. It's the same price. Whatever it would have took to put in pipe, dig, entrench it all the way to the house was the same cost as having a well drilled. So we're like, well, it's a no-brainer. Let's just drill a well. If we're gonna have to pay the same, plus I don't have to pay whatever your utility cost is. Let's just do that. And we also like the well water. Our previous home we had it. We had our water filtration system. It took all the like the heavy minerals like iron, magnesium out of it. And once you did that, I mean, water was phenomenal. And
the water taste was just completely different.
It tastes much better, because like and do your research. Utility water has all sorts of chemicals in it for them to clean the water. Because obviously it comes from a sanitation facility, so they got to do whatever they got to do to make it clean water. So in order to do that, you got to pump it full of stuff. And where we live, our utility water is a little iffy. There's been tons of issues. The utility has been sold a couple times, to different companies, and there's constant water issues of boiling.
No water.
Why? No water
Low
and
water.
boiling alerts.
Yeah.
And what usually happens after you get that boiling alert, like, you turn your faucet on and it's brown water, or your water smells like a swimming pool. I mean, it'll come out smelling straight chlorine. And we're like, if we're already having those issues and we have to install a water filtration system, let's avoid all that.
Right.
Because again, since we're on the mountain, they have to pump the water in from a whole different level versus like, if you just drill in, you're coming off a natural spring and then you just clean up and then you're good to go.
And we're very, very fortunate because we do have like an aquifer underneath our property, very close in proximity to the house, because where they ended up drilling for the well, how far away is it? It wasn't very far. It was just on the other side of our driveway.
Yeah, just on the other side of the driveway. And I think we were getting, what do you say, like 60 gallons per minute hit rate as far as, so like, I think ideally.
What's required?
Ideally, you want minimum of 10, and if you don't hit 10, you got to drill even further to kind of create a void so the water can fill up and then you pump up. But like, our fill rate was like, I think he said it was 60 or a little bit higher than 60. So he's like, wow, you're more than good to go. And especially if you're out, like, if you're wanting to build like a little, farm homestead and you have animals, you're going to need a ton of water
Yeah.
anyways for the animals, your crops and whatever. So like,
It worked out.
it
It worked out. I think that was one of the ones that we were just so relieved
right.
because
We were
we
so
were
worried about it because
nervous.
it's so hit and miss. They
Mhm.
always tell you it's hit and miss. You may not hit nothing, and then you wasted like $4,000 in drilling, and then they got to go drill another well somewhere else, and then until they hit a spot that it's good. But the guys were good. They they've worked up and down this mountain, and then they just walk on their property. They're like, yeah, we know exactly where we're going to drill right here, and they did,
That
and
is
it was awesome.
amazing, right? I mean, the amount of water that came out that day.
And we'll show you the footage of it. And the guys tried to
Yeah,
get me wet,
they did.
but they're like, yeah, no, man.
That was awesome. We had to move a second. The sun was starting to get into our eyes.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got the water, and that was a big weight off our shoulders because we were very nervous about that. Then obviously it was into the interior plumbing work. And there were some things that Nelson really wanted to be necessary on the inside of our house. And that was how we were going to plumb it. All right. So what is it that exactly that you wanted on the house? And let's talk about how we made a few adjustments here and there based on like costs and stuff.
Yeah, so I wanted to run copper throughout the whole home. And that's
Yeah,
just kind of
he did. He did.
that's kind of to, the I guess.
It's kind of like the tried and true method that's been done for how many like centuries? People have been like piping their like right, their houses with copper.
Yeah, it's like the craftsmanship aspect.
Hmm.
You want a plumber that knows how to do, the old school method of running copper pipe. So I was like, I love that aspect of it, of the utility of having somebody come in and do something a little bit more complex than most people do. Because normally it's just PVC pipe and you're good to go.
And obviously, we also know because of our background and what we used to work in and what you still work in is that when you build these high rises and commercial places, that is what they use
Right.
because
It's
it
all
is.
copper piping.
Exactly. And so we know that that's used in commercial buildings and construction and stuff. So why is it that we're not having it done in our houses anymore? Obviously, one of those things is the cost. And that was, that was a little bit of a, shocker for us. Obviously, we he came up with the I want copper everywhere, and we got the bill, and we're like, okay, wait a minute, let's figure this out. And so we ended up compromising on just doing it in the areas where we know we're going to drink water out of, right? So we ended up doing it in the kitchen.
Right. So the incoming is copper. Ran to all the locations that we're going to drink out of, like, the kitchen, the island, over
For the
this,
sink, for the sink.
right, for the sink, over the stove, and the refrigerator, so you can, walk in and have your drinking water.
Right. So 3 points of entry: drinking water, sink for the faucet because we're going to be cooking, obviously, and cleaning like vegetables and fruit and all that, that kind of stuff. And then obviously the pot filler. So we thought those were the very most important places that we wanted to make sure that we had copper piping in. And obviously there are health benefits to that as well. And so we thought about that also. We took that into consideration. But because there's nowhere else that we're going to be actually consuming the water in the house, obviously, we thought it would be okay to go ahead with the, uh
Pecs.
the new packs that they have right now that everybody is using for their plumbing. So that's kind of what we decided on, and obviously the quote for that was easier to
Well,
digest. It's
it,
still expensive, but it's not as
well,
bad.
it's easier to work with, and you
Hmm.
don't have as much soldering. So, like,
Hmm.
and in turns and stuff is a little bit easier to get around
Hmm.
stuff. So it's a little bit more flexible, and
Well, the good thing is that the kitchen is like right there where the water comes in from the exterior, so it wasn't like a ton of copper piping work.
And like any home, like if there is any, issues with plumbing, they're inside actual walls. So like if there's an issue, unfortunately you got to break sheetrock or cut the sheetrock out and fix it. But since everything is above ground, the plumbing is not an issue. If there is happens to be a leak, you just address where the leak is.
And Nelson already explained this, I think, previously when we first did the slab work. But we did run like another run alongside of the current pipe right? The current piping for the plumbing and everything, in case that does ever happen. We have another avenue to reroute stuff and right and fix any issues in the
Right.
slab in
I
the
ran a
future.
chase. So
Right.
it's like a bigger pipe that's a chase. So like if anything were to happen, you can fish anything in. And even if you couldn't do anything, let's just say for whatever reason that chase somehow still broke, um, the water line coming in is still through the gravel portion. So we can still come in into the house above grade anyway. So like we got two different methods. So even if the other two fail, there's still a way to get water in.
Mm-hmm. We really did try to think ahead as far as that, because we've always had houses on basements, so any piping or any plumbing or anything like that was always easily accessible. So we really had to think about what are we going to do to make it extra easy for us in case anything does happen in the future, and that's what they ended up coming up with, which I think is a great idea, and it makes us feel better. So yeah, that's what we did. Now, do you want to walk everybody?
Yeah, let's go show
And
some of the
show?
pipe. All right. So that black pipe over there and the wire you see wrapped around, that is where the well was dug. So they had a big drill come out, and I don't know if you can kind of see me, but point to it. But they had a big drill come out, and then they just drilled down. I think it was 200 feet. They hit water around 120 feet, but they just keep going like I said, just in the event that you don't hit water, you kind of go a little bit further just to create a pocket of water. And from there all the way to here, the pipe goes down in here underneath the slab and then into the home. So we have the original pipe that goes in. We also have the chase that's in the concrete as well. And like I said, since it's over here, in the event that anything ever happens, we still have the ability to pipe above and go into the home. So no matter what, we can still get water into the home regardless of what happens down here. And then when it comes into the home, you can see here's the copper pipe. And this is going to get reworked all around here. This is just making all the connections where, you know, the water or the pipes were pressure tested to make sure that everything was good when all the plumbing was in. But what this space is for is to have the pressure tank. Since we have well water, there's not a natural like pressure that's provided. You know, so if you have utility water, the utility provides that pressure into your pipes, and that's how you get all the water that comes in. So we have to create that since we're on a well. And what you have is a big pressure tank that sits here. And then besides there, we're going to have, you know, our hot water heater and our filtration system. And this space is, you know, it's pretty wide. I think it's about 5, almost 6 foot wide. And then you got about 8 to 9 foot wide. So this whole area here is going to be kind of like the mechanical closet for, you know, the incoming water. You have your water filters, your pressure tank, your hot water heater, and if you need to address everything, everything's right here. You can get to it and you're good to go.
And one of the little adjustments that we made on our plan in order to accommodate this system that we knew we wanted to have was there's actually, in the plans, there was a door accessing the mudroom from the garage. But there was already another entrance through the other side of the garage. So we figured we did not need a door there. So we closed it off so we can have this entire area for this entire system that we knew we needed. So we did make that small adjustment from the original plans in order to accommodate this.
Closing that wall off also gives us more wall in the actual mudroom as well. So
yeah,
like, you know, it kind of, it's a twofold thing.
So if you look, that would have been the entrance to the mudroom, and right here, right past that blue box right there, that's the other entrance, and that goes to the kitchen. So we figured, okay, we don't really need 2 entrances. One is fine, and we gain the extra square footage in order to accommodate for our system right here. So in case you guys were wondering what a pressurized well tank looks like for a well water system, this is what it looks like right here. It's just this really big tank, and the box is almost as tall as me. So all the water will go up in here and obviously create pressure for the rest of the house.
So that's kind of like a miniature tank that you see in
Water tower.
Right, those big water towers, usually they're blue or white that you see, but this will create natural pressure in your home. And we went with a 86-gallon one. I think it was recommended like a 40 or 50, but we decided to upsize because, we wanted to be able to take a shower as long as you wanted without running out, or be able to run 2 or 3 showers at the same time. All right, so this is a 50-gallon liquid propane hot water heater tank. We do not have natural gas out here, so we have to have a tank that we have to buy and put out there. So we are running it off liquid propane. I am also wiring to have the ability to do an electric tank as well. Just in the event, I'll have 240 volt right there if we need to. If we don't end up liking the liquid propane tank. But the reason we went with liquid propane is just it heats up faster. You don't run out of water as much. If you ever had an electric hot water heater, sometimes if you're in there and you got 2 bathrooms running, all of a sudden the water will get cold, and for water to warm up on a electric water tank, it takes a little longer versus liquid propane or gas, because that's instant heat that heats up. We opted not to go with a tankless hot water heater due to the maintenance and the budget. If it was in the budget, we would have thought about doing it. There's plenty of wall space behind us to add it. We ran piping to it to be able to do it in the future if we ever decide to. But this was within our budget, and this is what we had to work with.
All right, so right here you can see the pipe coming in, and this is going to be where the refrigerator is going to be. So as you can see, we have the copper piping coming in right there. This is the wall where the stove is going to be. So the stove is going to be right here, and the copper pipe that you see right here, it's kind of to the left of that white pipe right there. Yep. That's for the pot filler. And so that was a little bit of a addition that we added to the kitchen that was not in the original plans. And then finally, the copper piping to the sink in the kitchen, because the sink is actually inside of the island, and you can actually see the perimeter of the island in blue tape because we had to measure it out for a few things. But yeah, that's the 3 different points of entry for our copper piping.
So as you can see, we have multiple pipes. So this is incoming water. If in the event that these fell, these are wrapped in plastic anyways, to prevent them or protect them from corrosion being inside the concrete. But if they are to fail, we have, 2-inch piping that we can fish PEX or any other type of pipe we need for the plumbing. So
yeah, I think that was great. Planning ahead if anything happens.
Yeah, we just wanted to make sure. So, if these fell, we're not going to bust up concrete. We'll just leave them be, fish pipe, and keep moving. All right, so here's an example of a bathroom. Here is the PEX.
Red for hot.
Red for hot. Blue for cold. They don't have to be color coded. They just come that way. And as you saw, we've partnered with Gerber for all our fixtures.
Yeah.
These are, if you can come in here and kind of zoom in, these are all brass heavy duty fixtures, which we've partnered with them before in the past, and we absolutely love it. They've always done a good job, so again, this is one of those things that we chose to go with that specific brand just because of our history with them and the fact that these are really heavy duty fixtures.
Exactly. And it was great that our plumber was familiar with their stuff and knew how to install it. So that was great too. So everything here is eventually going to be all Gerber as far as the plumbing fixtures is concerned. But we wanted to make sure that the infrastructure was also Gerber as well, to have just the best fittings.
And this bathroom is actually really cool. You have your shower head over here, but opposite, you're going to have another little shower head that's going to have a handheld shower. So you'll have 2 different shower heads plus a handheld, so you can wash anything. This is like a floor to ceiling tile. So, and the reason we did that is just because we have animals and we can come in here and bathe the animals, and we'll tile everything. That way, we can come in here and bathe them.
Also
whenever
for
you want.
guests too. I mean, this is going to be the guest bathroom, which is exciting because even our guests are going to get to enjoy the two
Right.
shower heads.
Yeah, so you have two different shower heads that you can turn on at the same time. But we thought of it as the utility aspect of if you have a normal shower here, but we want to start having pets. We initially I was not a dog person, and then we got a couple dogs, and we're like, now we see why people like dogs so much. Yeah, they're pretty cool. So we wanted to have something here that we can handheld. I can wash them, bathe them, and then they're good to go. All right. So one of the challenges we came across when we were building this home, when we bought the plans, they didn't come with mechanical, electrical, or plumbing, print. So everything had to be done by each trade. And one of the issues we ran into here was we didn't have any space to run any of the plumbing from upstairs into the floors to go out to our septic tank. And we were sitting there racking our brains because obviously you can't cut into any of the load bearing beams. So one of the things we had to do on the fly, because of all the trades that we're working in here is what are we going to do? How are we going to solve the issue of fixing or being able to get the plumbing from the second floor down to the first floor without having to go through any of the structural support beams. The rest of the house is 10-foot ceilings. The trades were wanting to build bulkheads, and I don't know if you've ever seen that. It looks like crap. Or basically they pretty much make a faux beam to run everything into. And we're like, well, that doesn't look good because then it runs into all our cabinets and everything else. One of the solutions that we came up on the fly was, hey, why don't we lower the ceiling on this bathroom? This bathroom is pretty big, and this is majority of where the problems were, or not where the problems are. This could potentially fix the issues of the ceiling height. What if we dropped it down 1 foot in this room only and leave the rest of it alone? Will that eliminate any of the bulkheads? And the plumbers were like, yeah, absolutely, because as you can see, all the plumbing is here. So this is the plumbing coming in. So this is the wastewater, the actual bigger pipe. The incoming water doesn't matter where it runs because it's flexible because you put pressure on, but what you need is an actual graded slope that goes down for the wastewater for, the toilets and the shower and everything. So when we lowered the ceiling, it gave us all the tolerances we need to run all the water from one side of the house all the way wrapping around, and then giving us that gradual slope we need to go back down. So and inadvertently dropping the ceiling also helped another trade. And we're going to talk about electrical in another episode, but basically it gave an extra chase to run all the electrical wires without having to cut into any structural support. So inadvertently, by dropping the ceiling an extra foot, it helped the plumbing, the electrical, and the mechanical. So that was, a win-win. So that was something that we had to do, like I said, on the fly. We had to make that choice immediately because, once the guy was in here running his pipe, he's like, hey, we got to do this now because otherwise, if I got to come back, it's going to cost you more.
I know, and they were even concerned. They were like, but that's dropping it an entire foot. But we're like, it's totally fine. We'll live with the fact that only this bathroom has 9-foot ceilings. That wasn't much of an issue for us. I mean, our last house had 8-foot ceilings, so everything was much lower. And this still feels pretty tall, as you guys can see where those beams are right there. That's much higher than Nelson's head. So we're not gonna miss that 1 foot that we lost there. And by just making that decision and going with it, we solved so many problems, like he said. And it's just one room, and nobody's even going to be able to pretty much know the difference, to be quite honest.
If you came into our home and we never pointed it out, you would walk this whole floor, come in, use the bathroom, leave, and you would never know the difference. It's only when somebody points it out, you're like, hey, you're right, this is a little bit shorter than the rest.
Right. So this was one of those, learning things and something that we had to adjust and kind of, do on the fly, like he said. And we're glad we were able to come up with a solution, and it worked out in the end. So yeah, it's one of those little things that we learned.
Yeah, because I can promise you, being in the GC world, they would have just started notching stuff and just made it happen. Versus we kept everything clean. Nothing structural was touched, and
that was your biggest concern,
right.
is not touching any of the LVLs that support the weight of the house. That was very important for you. You did not want to go into any of those beams, and by doing this, you were able to accomplish that. So.
Or have those ugly
oh yeah, bulkheads. It's just
bulkheads
not no.
like around. It's like, well, why is that random beam there? And it's like, well, that's where we had to run our plumbing.
And speaking of, there was one area where we had to do quote unquote a bulkhead, and we'll take you guys right now, but we'll show you what we did instead. So we're in our master bedroom right now, and we also had support beams right here, as you can see, where they intersect right there. And we had an issue with the whole plumbing and trying to get plumbing down to the first floor, because right above here is a bathroom. And so we had to come up with a solution here as well. And what we did here, because if you can see, there's a pipe right there. That's the sewer pipe, right, babe?
Yep.
Right? What we ended up coming up with was creating a tray ceiling in our bedroom. And you can see right here where the tray ceiling is at. If you look, you see the right angle right here. That's where it comes down. And originally we didn't have that in the plans, but we had to create one. And since this is kind of a smaller room, we thought having the higher ceilings would help us. So we did do the tray ceiling here instead of just bringing the entire ceiling down. And it worked out for us as well.
So the main issue is there's a bathroom directly above here, and to get the water down, the wastewater down and out, you couldn't do that because of this beam right here. So there was a big beam that's holding up this side of the house, and we're like, wow, what do we do? And we're like, well, let's just do a tray ceiling in here, drop it down 12 inches. We still get the height in the center of the room, but here you can see that's where all the plumbing comes in. And then that also solved an issue with the HVAC because of that extra 12 inches, as you can see, they were also able to run, the pipe for the HVAC into my office and, on the other side of the house. So it kind of helped out both issues that we had, because same issue with HVAC. How do you get HVAC on the other side of the home with that big beam and being in the way, but with the additional space, it kind of solved.
Yeah.
Or what's the saying, two birds, one stone?
Well, yeah, no, and as you can see, that pipe, what is that? Like a 12-inch pipe, I think, or 12-inch run, I think. And can you imagine creating a hole that's 12 inches wide to go through that beam?
If we wouldn't have came up with a solution, we would have had to have hired a structural engineer to come look at all the load-bearing beams. And we could have come up with a solution. It just would have involved, more people to come and a much more, expensive solution versus just dropping it down and adding a tray ceiling.
Right. And, once the sheetrock is up and once the tray ceiling is completed, nobody's going to know that, that was the purpose of the tray ceiling in this room. It could just be an architectural feature, which does look really pretty as well. So that was another one of our solutions when it came to like the piping and all that stuff. So we were just standing in that room right past talking about the plumbing and how to get all that stuff over here. And as you can see up here, right above there, you see the pipe going in to our plumbing to our shower. So again, that tray ceiling was used in multiple areas in order to feed different plumbing needs throughout this side of the house. So that really helped us. So here we're going to give you guys a little sneak peek of our layout of our bathroom real quick, because why not? As you can see here, we have 2 shower heads. We wanted a really big shower, and we're really excited about this because we haven't had a big shower in forever. And it's going to be, from this wall back here all the way to the corner of this stud right here. And it's going to be this huge rectangle. And Nelson's going to have his own shower head, and so am I. So I'm really excited about this. This was something that actually took a lot from me as far as a design standpoint, because I had to make sure I knew exactly what I wanted the shower to look like when we were laying these pipes out. And that was hard because it was my very first time doing it. And I had to take into consideration what exactly were we doing as far as like our nooks for like our shampoos and our soaps and stuff. I needed to know where I had to place those and how we were going to run piping throughout this wall so we can make space for them. So that was a little bit challenging and it took us a little while, but we figured it out. And so just to give you an idea, we're actually going to have our own little nooks. He's going to have his own nook. I'm going to have my own nook. And it's going to be underneath the shower heads, which is why you see the pipe coming in from this angle right here instead of up this one, because we needed to make sure that this was free so that when Nelson comes in and starts laying out the curdy board for us to install the tile, that had to be free. So a lot of, pre-thought went into just something like this. I'm going to have my own nook here, as you can see. And again, this one's free of any piping. So we got all the infrastructure. We, determined the height of the shower heads and all that stuff. And of course, we got all of the infrastructure put in. But this was a pretty big deal for just a simple shower. And I cannot wait to see what it looks like in the end. Well, that's it for today's episode. That is all we have for our well water, as well as our plumbing throughout our house, and why we decided to go with what we went with. And I hope this was informative. I hope it helped you all. If you have any questions, just put them down in the comments below, and we'll see you guys in the next episode.
Now, just remember, most important piece of information: poop rolls downhill.
As long as you have that, you're good to go.
Yep. As long as you have that, decline, it all goes downhill.
And if it doesn't, it goes downhill from there. All right, y'all. We'll see you guys very soon. Until then, adios.